Assalamu alaikum. This is the second lecture of your subject traffic engineering and road facilities. In the first lecture we had discussed the road user characteristics. Today we will shed some light on the vehicular characteristics. So what are the vehicular characteristics? Vehicular characteristics are those properties and characteristics of the vehicles which affect the traffic and the traffic system in general. As you see on the slide, it is not economically feasible to keep on increasing the geometric standards and thickness of pavement from time to time to meet the need of a few vehicles whose dimension and weight might be changed. What it basically means, if there are too many different type of vehicles which are launched and which you have to move on the road, so we will have to keep changing the various structural aspects of the pavement and the road in general. So it is not feasible to keep on changing it. Hence, vehicle standards should be uniform at least within a country. And the standards for the dimensions and weights of these vehicles should be consistent with the road facilities which are now available or could be made available in the near future. Moving on. Now, vehicular characteristics can be discussed under two headings: the static characteristics and the dynamic characteristics. Static characteristics are those characteristics of the vehicle which remain consistent throughout the life of the vehicle, usually which remain consistent, and the dynamic characteristics which change with the life of the vehicle and with the different conditions. Moving on. Now let us discuss some of the static characteristics. Static characteristics, as you see on the screen, could be the dimensions, the weight, or the minimum turning radius. Okay. For example, the height of the vehicle affects the clearance of the overhead structures. There are structures which are overhead the vehicle. They must affect the the way the vehicle is built. Or if the height of the driver's seat is too high or too low, it affects the view he gets, or the way in which the headlights are placed on the vehicle. It affects his headlight distance, the way he can view things during night. The field of vision ahead for the driver also depends on the design of the windshield and the front position of the vehicle body. Okay, if the windshield is broad enough, there will be a bigger field of vision, and if it is smaller, there will be a smaller field of vision. Similarly, the various dimension, the length will affect the overtaking distance, the safe overtaking distance. The minimum turning radius which is mentioned here, it will you have to provide this minimum turning radius for the vehicle to turn in every situation in the traffic system. So this sort of a parameter remains static. Okay. And also the weight, how does the weight affect the traffic system in general? Okay, what happens is that the structural design of the pavement keeps on changing if you keep on changing the weight. Okay, so these are the ways in which the static characteristics affect the traffic system. Now the dynamic characteristics. Let us try to understand some of the dynamic characteristics, which are the characteristics, as I said earlier, which keep on changing with time and the different conditions. Okay, the main dynamic characteristics have been listed on your screen. These are speed, acceleration, braking characteristics. The speed and acceleration depends upon the power of the engine. Okay, and the resistance is to be overcome. There are many, if you have to move in a certain condition, there are certain type of resistances, so the speed and acceleration will depend upon that. The deceleration and the braking characteristics guide the safe vehicle operations. Obviously, if you have an efficient brake and an efficient way in which the vehicle decelerates, you will have a better safety regarding your movement and your vehicle. Okay, also some other dynamic characteristics we can mention here is that the riding comfort on vertical curves depends on the design of the suspension system. If you have to move on any sort of an undulated surface or on a vertical curve, it will depend on the suspension system. Also, there might be many other dynamic characteristics, but the main important ones are listed here. Now let us discuss some of these vehicular characteristics in some detail. First of all, vehicle dimensions. How does the vehicle dimension affect the traffic system in general? Okay, as you see on the slide, the width affects the width of traffic lanes, shoulders, parking facilities, and the capacity in different ways. Obviously, if the width of the lanes is not adequate in view of the widest vehicles using the road, the capacity of the road will decrease. Similarly, you have to, for more wider vehicles, more space is needed everywhere, in parking facilities, in terms of shoulders of the road. In every way, you will need more land and more the shoulder length should be more, and the parking land should be more. Also, the capacity of the road will be affected. Height affects the clearance under bridges and electric lines. That is one way of saying. Also, if there are bumps or speed breakers or any kind of undulations of the road, the height of the lower part of the vehicle above the ground should also be of a particular standard, so that the vehicle is not damaged. The length affects the safe overtaking distance, as it is written there, and also the capacity. Obviously, it will affect more if the standard lengths of the vehicles are more, the capacity will be more, the capacity will be less, sorry, and it will change likewise. Also, the length should be considered in the design of the valley curves and dips. The maximum allowable width, height, and length of the vehicles has been standardized by an organization known as the Indian Road Congress (IRC). Okay, which you will keep on hearing this about this organization as you go on studying about traffic engineering. Okay. Now, if the allowable configuration of different types of transport vehicles has been summarized for you in the following table, as you see on your screen, the different types of transport vehicles and the maximum dimensions in meters, excluding the front and the rear bumpers, has been summarized for you on the screen. You can see the vehicles, what type of the vehicle it is, if it is type 2, type 3, type 2 S1 to 2S2, and then you can see the maximum dimension as it is on the screen in the table. Okay, as you can see, no combination is allowed to be of more than 2 units. Every combination, if it is type 2, type 3, type 2 S1, type 2 S2, it is of 2 units, and no combination, laden or unladen, is allowed to have an overall length exceeding 18 meters. We cannot have any dimension which is more than 18 meters. Okay, the width for all vehicles is standardized to 2.50 meters, and the height is different for single and double decked vehicles, and the length, as you see with the different types of vehicles, is standardized differently. So thank you very much for hearing about some of the vehicle characteristics in this video, and we will see you soon, inshallah, and keep on trying to illuminate you about this subject.